but Corinne should be here. Give up the form so we can proceed.
Hope you want.
It is warming up, I think, unless I'm getting used to it, acclimated. Okay, we are live streaming.
There's Kyle, ask why it's a gold. What?
And I have 5 o'clock, so I am going to officially open the January 10th, 2023 Tree Commission meeting. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Suzanne Cahill. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Kingston. Our office is the Administrator for the Tree Commission. I'm just going to go around the table and ask the Tree Commission members to introduce yourself, and I will start with you, Tubby.
Elizabeth Collins, the representative from the Memorial Tree Fund on the Tree Commission.
Okay, Evan.
Evan King, member of Tree Commission.
Okay, and Amanda.
Amanda O'Neill, member of the Tree Commission.
Okay, and we have
Anita Collins, I'm liaison to the Conservation Advisory Council.
Okay, and we also have Kyla D-Day, the assistant planner with us, and our guest is Natalie Keekle for the grants office for the city of Kingston. So welcome. We do have 2 tree reviews to just quickly, I believe we can quickly address them. The first matter is 25 to 63 Wilbur Avenue. This was a complaint. I circulated information around last month to tree commission members about a tree removal that was done on a public right-of-way. There is a easement over that right-of-way for an adjacent property owner to access their property. We've reviewed the easement. I've talked to Corporation Counsel. The easement did not equivocally give that individual the right to remove the tree without going through the protocol and the procedures of the code. They have been in touch through our Corporation Counsel. They understand now that what they did was in error, but we are now in the position of the commission assessing the appropriate fine for doing the work illegally. So my recommendation to the commission would be that you do issue the full amount, which is not a huge dollar amount at this point in time. It's only $250, but every little bit will help. I also think that as we would in any other normal circumstance, when an applicant requests removal, we do ask that another tree be of similar type and species. Now, obviously, this was a 50-foot tree. We can't get one planted 50, but, we would request that another tree be planted in proximity to the one that was removed to replace the lost tree. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know if there's any discussion from commission members, if you have any further thoughts or comments on the issue. Or if someone would like to make a motion and we can
Maybe include a tree planting application with information for next year.
I think that in this case, the onus of planting the tree should be on the property owner and not a free tree from the city. That's my thought, but the commission has to make the decision.
Do you think it's possible for them to, I wouldn't say it's a fine, right? But I think instead of giving only the 250, it's possible for them to force them to at least have a $500 voluntary donation to, either an emergency fund or something, right? I think 250 is so low.
Well, all that we have the statutory authority to do is to impose the fine. I can't, we don't have the ability, the way the code is written right now, to say that fine should be directed to a fund, one way or the other. That obviously is something we can discuss going forward with our proposed changes, though. we just have the authority to issue the fine. And I think in addition to that fine, like we would under any normal circumstance, if he had come to us and asked to remove the tree, we would have said at that time, maybe yes. If we did say yes, we would always impose that condition that another tree get planted. So I feel that that's a legitimate request in this case.
Then I make a motion to issue the maximum of the $250 fine for the tree removal and include the requirement for the replanting on their own of a new tree.
Hey, Green.
Remind me of the address again, it's Wilbur Avenue, you said?
It's 2563 Wilbur Avenue. So there's a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Okay, Evan is seconded. There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. Aye, okay, unanimous. Okay, so I'm just gonna let the record show that Corinne Detil is another commission member, has just joined us. So we will go on to quickly go to 224 Fair Street. I sent around a series of emails with the property owner. This was another complaint from a neighboring property regarding sidewalk conditions and driveway conditions from the roots. I had a discussion, the complaint was back in December. I had a discussion with the property owners just before our December meeting. And they said that they were going to look into it, talk to the neighbor and talk to arborists. They have done some research. We offered some options to them. We didn't put them on the December meeting, giving them an amount of time to do their homework. I reached out to them before the January meeting and I got that email that they do intend to take care of not only this tree, but there is a second tree in that stretch of sidewalk area that they are going to also do some pruning and do some work on the roots and correct the sidewalk heaving, and work with the adjacent property owner for the driveway. Obviously, the weather right now is not conducive to this work, so they have committed in writing to do it this spring. They will reach out to our office before the work is done. They do know that they need permits from the DPW as well to do the work. I've calendared it to check in with them in the early spring to make sure that they're on track and just kind of keep on top of it. So to me, it's resolved sufficiently. They're saving the tree, and we talked about them, what they wanted initially, well, what if we take it down? It's a really healthy tree. I'd rather not take it down. I explained that to them and they agreed. They turned around and said, yeah, we agree. So they are right now looking at talking to arborists. So if that's sufficient for everybody, I will just put that file in the watch list and we can move forward. Okay? Okay, so our next agenda item is the DEC grant. Natalie spoke with us last month about this grant opportunity. Kyla has drafted a letter from the commission to be considered in support, but we have Natalie back again to give us an update, and anybody having questions can ask her. So Natalie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a few people I didn't see here last week, some I did. So yeah, we're applying for this DEC grant. Primarily, the funds will be used for tree plantings. We've identified 4 city parks that we want to plant trees in, but a large component of this application is to do community outreach, engagement, and education. So that's what we've requested your support for. And I think at the last meeting, it was decided that you would participate and play an active role in doing this. So the letter outlines some of the opportunities that we've kind of identified for.
Corinne, there's an extra letter here if you didn't see it.
So I have a couple of questions. You folks normally plan and run Arbor Day?
Yes.
Do you have a date for that this year yet?
Arbor Day is April 30th.
April 30th? Okay, thank
So
you.
this is the same day every year.
Oh. So one of the things we were thinking would be nice to do is use some of the funding to purchase saplings to hand out, both at Arbor Day and Earth Fair. So we're hoping that you could participate in that, not necessarily at Earth Fair, because Parks and Rec, well, I think they wanted to do that at that event. But at Arbor Day, I understand that you normally do a ceremonial tree planting.
Would it be helpful, Natalie, Amanda is our representative on the commission that is working, she's the lead, and Debbie is working with her from the Memorial Tree Fund on Arbor Day. Would it be helpful maybe to have that discussion now so that you kind of know what we're planning for this year's Arbor Day and then kind of circle back to the grant?
Oh, sure.
I mean, I'm just asking.
I'm just below you on the list.
Yeah, so maybe it's
Yeah, that
helpful to
would be-
have that now, and then you can get that information, and we'll circle back again,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll turn it over to Amanda.
I had to have my notes.
Okay.
So I spoke to Andrew Williams that runs the after school program over there by Roundout. And so right now, he presently has about 24 students elementary and 24 students middle. So what he's doing right now is discussing with his team a project elementary and a project middle. So they'll be different for the different age groups. So right now, that's what the team is doing. They're brainstorming on what to do per group. And then we're gonna get some ideas from that on how to showcase it, where to show it, whether it's here in this building, or we could have some podium, like display stands when we do the tree planting, et cetera. And so I'm gonna be touching base with him. And he had some information he had asked, which I already clarified. And we're gonna invite him to come and participate with the meeting next month.
And what's his name again?
Andrew Williams. And but we'll have an answer about what kind of like art project, et cetera, the kids will do in preparation for it. So we're looking at, like I said, 24 in each group. So I would say roughly, 50 saplings. I can get a more accurate number,
Okay.
but that's the ballpark of how many students are gonna be there. So like the way it works is like, let's say hypothetically, there might be 10 kids in the middle school program on a Friday, but there will be 24 of them. So getting us started now with the art project, those students are only there 1 or 2 days a week or 3 days a week versus the 5. We'll still have enough time to complete theirs and be able to participate as much as the 5-day-a-week student.
Yeah, good.
So
good.
that's why we're gonna try to get this taken care of within the next couple of weeks of what they are gonna do.
Okay,
And then start working and have a
Okay.
few weeks for everybody to be able to.
so they're thinking like art type projects. Have you talked to them at all about the program itself, like doing, singing and like how the program would be structured?
I said that they could do
Okay.
some sort of like a more theatric performance of something
Okay.
like singing. Really, they're gonna work with the team to figure out what they can and what resources they have
Okay,
to
great.
do a project, what do they have an abundance of at the facility?
Mhm.
So.
Thank you. Yeah. Sounds great.
Okay, and Teddy, is the Memorial Tree Fund again willing to finance the tree for that day?
I will check with them, they usually do.
Yeah.
They will. We only meet twice a year, so.
Okay,
I think you
I'm trying
emailed
to-
out
I'm
last
trying
time.
to remember, we may have already agreed to it,
okay,
or we may have a spring meeting and agree to it, and I can't
Okay.
remember, but it's something we always do. And I'll check with our president, treasurer, just to make sure we have the room.
Okay,
True.
great. And I'm sure, you know, because it's on city property, that we could hopefully get, you know, the Parks and Rec guys to, you know, help dig the hole to prep it and.
And we
get
also
it-
have to plan the time of the event based on
Right.
when the children are gonna be there as well.
Right, okay, yeah, that's true. It's an after-school program,
Yeah,
correct?
so maybe like
So it would be later in the
the
afternoon.
elementaries get out at 3, so they probably have to get bussed over, so, you know, maybe like a 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah.
It'll be much nicer April 30th.
Yeah.
And much more light out.
Lighter.
4 o'clock, so.
Yeah. Corinne, you had a question?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this, about like the Broadway, you know, we are working to design with this committee, the Broadway area, and I was wondering about the timeline, and if like, because most of people, you know, express the idea of having, you know, a park like, and like some edible trees and things like this. I was just wondering if this project kind of like help to implement some of this tree in the park, in the new park that's going to be built. Like, do you have a timeline about?
I'm sorry, which new park?
It's on Broadway in Prince. It's like the two
Oh,
places area.
yes,
You know, that's like in design phase, but I know like by the summer it would be nice. I mean, if we could start to implement like all the trees, it would be just amazing.
yeah, so there's a map of eligible areas. It has to be in a disadvantaged community,
Yeah, I think
so.
it is. It's right in the middle. It's in Midtown, so you have to be there.
Yeah, it looks like, so all the purple is eligible. So as long as it's not, you know, like right there, as long as it fits in there, that is something we can talk about.
Yeah, I didn't think about that being timed.
Yeah, because I feel like, I mean, I was speaking to Emily and Kristen this morning about like being able to kind of start some things this summer, you know? And even if it's not like the hardscape one, but at least if we can start to plant the trees are like, you know, like not going to be damaged by the work to be done after, but to have something to start would be amazing.
Yeah, well, our timeline actually is looking more like next spring for the plantings. But if it can wait, if,
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, we can start with like, you know,
Okay.
like the big one.
Okay. Okay, so are we wrapped up with Arbor Day? Because we kind of scooted away for a second, I'm sorry.
Unless you needed to say anything else.
Okay, anything
I'm
more
turning it
about
back
Arbor
over to
Day?
you.
no, nothing really further about Arbor Day or even, the application is near completion. So some of the other details, is it okay to email everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
absolutely.
Probably our best bet at this point, email some of the details.
Okay, so we do have the draft letter of support. If everybody wants to take a quick peek at that, if you have any comments on that, want me or Kyla actually has it to make any changes,
I didn't see anything.
okay?
Have you thought about which park you're gonna do for the tree ID walk?
Well, I think that, I don't know if you had a different discussion, but originally he mentioned wanting to do Kingston Point Park because there are so many, well, first of all, there's a lot of trees there, and I think he could touch on the invasive species portion of it. There were a lot of ash trees there at one time, or at least some ash trees, so I think, you know, it kind of tied into the discussion.
Is it John Duval?
The tree ID, Tom O'Dowd is doing it.
But John Duval will be doing a demonstration at Earth Fair.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, planting demonstration.
Yeah.
We did try to look into doing the tree pruning program like we talked about last month, but we had a little bit of a hard time finding someone that would offer that service, tree pruning, you know, demonstration. We know John does the tree planting, so.
I wonder if I can check with Bird List. You know, Bird.
Emailed him, he didn't respond to me, and I
Yeah,
did
he
talk to
doesn't
Andy
always
Schultz.
respond.
Yeah, and I
He's
talked
so
to Andy
busy.
Schultz about him, and she
Yeah.
said, good luck, basically.
Because he's so
That it's like he's on, you know, a
Yeah.
wait list type
Yeah, he's
situation.
so busy.
Yeah,
I was with John today actually, and he just pruning. John Duval.
John Duvall,
Yeah,
Okay, well, maybe you can tie into that planting,
Yeah.
maybe you can just talk about it as a whole, proper planting, pruning,
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so can I have a motion to accept that letter and get it off to Natalie?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
accept the letter by the tree commission and send it out.
Can I have a
Natalie,
second?
to-
Debbie? Okay, so there's a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye, great, thank you. Okay, so moving on, DEC, Urban and Community Forestry Grant Report, really,
I don't really have many updates from the past meeting. We are doing the 21 plantings. I think their aim is to do it mid-March. I think we circulated all the species. We're kind of narrowing down the locations, which will also circulate.
It looks like you have a lot more species this year.
Yeah, last year we were a little bit late with the ordering. Then, you have to order these things so far in advance during the plantings and then. So then with all of the travel expenses and the supply issues, I think a lot of people, I don't know.
I think spring though, you usually have more variety. Fall, it's really what's left over.
Yeah, we
Kinda.
reserved these species in the fall, so they were able to dig them and put them aside for
Right.
spring. And then he's going to plan on planting them in mid-March, which is pretty early, and then that will close out that grant.
Do the people who supply the trees plant them too?
In this instance, they are, it's Ironwood, they're from Long Island.
They did the fall,
Yeah,
fall
they did the
planting, and
fall.
they were really good to work with.
Yeah, they have the tree nurseries themselves, they do a lot of plantings in Long Island and New York City, they have a lot of trees.
Okay. We've done Arbor Day, so the next item is the tree ordinance. And I did circulate a copy of the most current version that we have out there. Hopefully, everyone has had the opportunity to go through the comments. This is a time now when we can discuss anything further. I know we had some discussion earlier in the meeting about the fines and that at the end, so maybe we want to talk a little bit about that. I do, let's see, where is that? Penalties, it's the last section. Maybe we want to talk about increasing the fee for the penalty. Maybe we want to talk about some things that I thought might be an interesting approach would be that if someone does illegally remove a mature tree, when you do a substantial tree, say it's, say 18 inches DBH, maybe you want an equal amount of DBH planted. So you might want 9 2-inch trees to equate to that 18. Maybe that's a way to, because a $250 fine, quite frankly,
It's not gonna.
it's not gonna stop somebody. I mean, that's a pittance, really, when you think about it. It costs more to remove the tree, so if they're gonna spend, thousands of dollars to remove a large tree, $250 is gonna not stop them. You need to really make it something that's going to give them pause, and there, it can be a not to exceed, because there are circumstances out there, and I understand that where people don't really
What
understand
section is
that they need to get.
Very rough page.
And there are legitimate, there are legitimate cases, and I get that. But I still think that there has to be the ability for the commission to do something that's a little bit more substantive. So maybe we want to go back and everybody think about that. Like I said, I think maybe the fee increasing and offering, up the opportunity there to require them to, I don't know, require them to plant, an equitable amount. And then you'd have to really just figure out how do you determine the DBH of a tree that's gone.
Right.
And the only way you can, is guess, I mean, we do have the street tree inventory, but again, that has not really been kept as up to date as we would all like. So,
Because like in the city, like what they do is like there's a coefficient, like the size of the caliper. So I think there is like a price of like, like 1 inch is like $250. And after like, as you multiply like, with like the growth of the tree, it multiplies by like the amount. Because killing a tree that's like 2 inches versus killing a tree that's like 24 inches, it's
Right.
not, like the same damage.
Right.
And so that could be also like a way, because if you ask them to plant like, 5 trees, like by the time we have to find a location to find, it might be like, who's gonna buy it, and as like if they pay the money, then when we know what we want to plant, there's like the budget here that we can use or help people who need to kind of do those things.
right.
But as you say, some people don't know that,
I
something
mean,
like
you'd
that
have to
should be
have the
careful
ability
Right.
for them to, argue,
Right.
why their reasoning. And again, like I said, I do understand that not everybody recognizes that the tree is, but in this case, the individual, that we talked about earlier, I mean, it was a public right of way, and he did obtain an easement, so he knew it was in the public right of way, not on his land.
Yeah.
And so there should have been more of a.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, because a lot of people come to us and say, the tree on the street is dead in front of my house. And we tell them, it's your responsibility.
Right.
So a lot of people think it's the city's responsibility right from the get-go. They don't realize that it is theirs.
Is this applicable to like, for example, Central Hudson, right? Because I think a lot of time, it's like in the past year, we saw Central Hudson having, I wouldn't say remove, but like own the tree,
Right,
irresponsibly, just prune the tree and then like it end up like cause like either the property owner long-term damage or this, or and so I'm just wondering like once this, this code being approved, is this going to?
I don't think we can apply it to the utility. The utility, we've had the utility here. I can double check with our corporation counsel, but the utility's position is they are there to provide the service. So they are going to clear the lines and make sure that the service is not interrupted. And we've asked them to, come to us. They come to us in a couple of cases, but for the most part, they just do what they want to do to make sure that the power is continuous and not interrupted.
Because like if that's the case, then this code can, in some way, we will have to put the notes.
I think we can, I
It's
think, and I,
utility corporation, right? Because I think we are talking about any person, firm, entity or corporation. That includes every entity. But like if we are talking about utility company is being exceptional, like being, we cannot find them, then.
yeah, I wouldn't accept them out. I mean, but I see what you're saying, but I think we can also do things in the code, like say that they can't use the trees for anchors, like they have historically done, to anchor their poles. So things like that would damage, I think we can regulate that. Again, these are questions, this will all have to obviously pass muster through corporation council first before we would even send it off to the full council to consider. But, so items like that, we might want to think about.
Because like, I can give the example, right? There's a one time Central Hudson actually have their worker and they stop by to prune the tree on Clinton Avenue. The side without a power. And so we went out, I was like, what
Yeah.
happened here? And I said, oh, we took, this is the instruction, we are supposed to prune the tree.
Well, there's another thing, and maybe the code can address that prior to those kinds of corporations undertaking planned work, because they put these things out to bid, they know what they're going to be doing, they have work schedules, that they put together. There's a notification requirement. Maybe the city can do something like that to impose a notification. I mean, that's something, maybe we can add in. I don't know, I'm just thinking freely now, but I don't know if there's any other, thoughts along those lines.
When you say a notification, notifying the city, notifying the neighbors?
No, notify the property owner.
Oh. Yeah, they should.
Because a lot of times what happens is, the tenants, there's tenants and tenants don't care. You can put a notice on the door and the tenant's like throwing it out, Property owner has no clue.
What about another part of it? People that plant trees without getting the permission. What kind of penalty, I don't see a penalty in place.
Aren't we quite full?
Well, the problem, for the most part, I would say yes, but
Yeah, I know.
if
sometimes
they're
it's-
not looking at where plumbing is and where the gas lines are and how much size, if they're not following the regulations.
Or they're not planting a street tree, they're
Yeah.
planting an ornamental tree,
Or
which
there's
is the
another
worst thing for along the street, it gets destroyed and. Or they plant they plant in front of a stop sign. It sounds ridiculous, but, our DPW has to go around frequently and tell people, you can't put plantings there. They'll plant rows of sunflowers. They grow 6, 8 feet tall and the stop sign is not visible.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, there are a couple of stop signs.
So there's probably 5 trees that have been planted
Mhm.
within 3 blocks of my house and never came before this committee.
Hmm.
And they're very young, I can't even tell what kind of trees there are
Yeah.
because they're brand new, they were planted in the fall or.
I think rather than fine people, I think maybe there's an educational thing we should start thinking about. And really, we can work with the city's communication director and just really just put the notices out there just to educate the general public that, before you plant, it's like, the before you dig ad, and everybody kind of knows that, but maybe, in the spring, when people are really thinking about it, we reach out to the nurseries and create a nice flyer and put them in the nurseries, so that when they're selling their trees, they know this and the flyers may be there, people can take them. Maybe that's the approach to take.
Well, because their penalty is going to have to be to remove a tree
Yeah,
or have damage between their sewer line or their gas line or whatever else that could be there.
right.
It's gonna cost them a lot of money if they're not aware of this.
Right. I think if we identify that a tree has gone in, it's very easy just to write a letter to the property owner and say, look, they should have come before the commission. And just please, let us, what's the type of tree, and did you call underground? And, rather than I don't want to penalize somebody for planting a tree. I mean, I'd rather try and work more positively with them than like say, we're gonna, issue a fine again.
I wasn't so concerned about that, but like, what would the penalty be? If it's an ornamental tree, you have to move it onto your property. You know,
Yeah,
there has to be like something
yeah, I
that
mean,
follows
if it's
our-
right, I
our
mean, if it's
plan.
not, right, if it's not a suitable
That's what
tree,
I'm
I
saying.
think then
Maybe
the
it's
commission has every
stumps.
right to require them to remove it and relocate it. Absolutely.
Maybe that could be like also, I know like some emails are coming out, from the mayor, like, this could be something about like, do you know, like in Kingston, like, the tree, kind of like the responsibility of a homeowner, about the tree in front of their house, and if you're thinking about planting a tree, call the tree commission to make sure, because I think it would be great to have everybody planting their trees, if it's like the right spot, the right tree, and have them take this over, so maybe like doing like a little campaign about.
What if
Right.
it's so big that it's gonna mess the sidewalk up in a couple of years, and then that's a huge cost on them?
Exactly.
Right.
But
There's
just
a lot
kind
of
of
different
like,
factors that could cost them a lot of money.
and the same thing to remove a tree, if you remove a tree, like, but do like little maybe something in the email that, like
I don't
communicate.
feel like a lot of people read the paper or get emails
Mm,
from the city. I know a lot of people follow the Facebook page from the mayor and from the city.
Yeah.
So
that's the
if
same
something
thing.
like that was put on both of those, I feel like social
Yeah.
media kind of took place of the Daily Freeman for more people
Ah,
accessing it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So maybe putting together a flyer and putting it out there that way as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like if there's an education ahead, then we avoid all these issues and also have like, people working the same way we are. And
does one of the commission members, Corinne, would you want to take a shot at putting a flyer together?
Sure.
Design something that we can take a look at? Because now's the time to do it.
Right.
With spring planting coming up, now's the time to really put it together and then, we can easily get it out there. And I'm sure summer would help us,
Yeah.
and we could put it on the Facebook, yeah, absolutely, social media. And the mayor does a weekly,
Yes.
blast newsletter. I'm sure he would put something up on that as well.
I mean, putting it in the paper, putting it in his email and on social media is gonna hit
Yeah.
a much larger.
Because I will be looking
Age
at
group.
Facebook. It's like that.
Okay, good, that's a good idea.
What's that, nursery can have that
And the nurseries can have the pamphlets. That's a
Yeah.
great idea as well.
Home Depot, just like even.
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, just go, yeah, I mean, it's very easy. I mean, I think, like, in most of those places, they must have boards, we could just tack one on. But also just to, ask them to put it on their counter.
Another great thing, instead of having a whole bunch of paper and we're using resources, is to have on a bulletin board a QR code
Mhm.
for them to access that digitally. And then they can read it later. They're not gonna lose it. They could scan the QR code and go. I mean, that's what I do in my work all the time to disseminate information. I'm a QR code lover.
Okay.
And so to come back to this, I have a comment about the minimum dimension for the tree. And like,
What section are you in?
oh, sorry, I'm at second page. Where it says 3 feet,
Okay,
and so there's a minimum dimensions. And my concern is like, we don't have, for example, a 5 by 5. I mean, it happens all the time on the sidewalk, like there is no 5 by 5, but there is 4 by 3.5. So does that mean like there is no tree because it doesn't require,
Yeah.
that's why I'm concerned about like, this is an ideal kind of like situation, but there is a reality check and sometimes it's not as, favorable, but the trees are still doing great, so that's my concern of like,
yeah, I mean, really, yeah, there is really no, I mean, with the existing street layouts, 5 by 5 is almost impossible.
Exactly.
And many cases,
Yeah.
as a minimum.
Yeah,
Because
Preferred,
yeah,
it could be preferred, but I would have
because the zoning code, it says 4x5. That, you know.
right, I think that's because they're looking more towards, they're looking at the tree pits doing elongated versus perfect squares.
Yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, depending on the street, the thing is like it's case by case.
And that might make more sense to do, the rectangular.
Yeah.
Even finding 3x3 areas is tough. I mean, Kyla and I know just from, going around and looking at some of the locations where people have requested tree plantings.
I think the one was,
It's hard.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it's a little bit more flexible here, otherwise there is no tree will be planted.
Yeah.
is this one suggested by George?
Yeah,
Later on, you say 5x5, because
Right.
initially we put 4x4. And he said to go back to the zoning code or something, and it would become like 5x5.
Maybe, go ahead, sorry.
Oh,
Maybe what we need to do is make it, like if you have a new space,
Right.
it should be 5x5.
Well, with the zoning code, yeah, I think
But if
the
it's-
zoning
if
is
it's
more
not
like new
space,
discrete
Then
design.
you might have some,
Yeah,
yeah, that's why.
and so maybe it needs to be made clear that if this is
Yeah.
new landscaping, then it has to be.
I mean, if you're designing, but if you're even designing, a new site and you're taking up the old sidewalk and you can really use, materials like the structural soils that go underneath your sidewalk and have maybe a smaller on-grade tree pit, but the soil beneath extends under the sidewalk area. So it acts, and will allow for the root structure to grow more healthy rather than, looking at just what's on grade. Looking at what's below grade, I think is important.
because the old code is say 3x3.
The old code is 3x3, which is, it's,
And do we have an original sketch? Because we don't, it's kind of tricky, we change we have a sketch.
yeah.
Yeah, the sketch is so tiny, it's hard to see.
Yeah, I mean, we'd obviously want to replace this diagram. I mean, this was a hand-drawn diagram. This was when we first put this code together, and Steve Yarovac did it for us. So, yeah, we have standard tree planting that we can, on a computer now that's
Right.
much cleaner. I will say it's getting close to our time, so are there any more significant points that we'll take this discussion up again? But I want to keep looking at this and keep making suggestions and
Email any other
comments.
things along with the discussion of the penalty for cutting down the tree.
Yeah,
I like Corinne's idea, you said that came out of the city.
Right.
You changed the amount by the size of the trees and the
I
health.
think that's a good.
I really like that idea, I think it's
Yeah.
very smart.
Yeah, it's way it's easy, like you just measure, like, how much, because there's always something that.
Mhm.
I say the maximum penalty would be based on the circumference.
Right.
I think that's a great idea.
so a gradual kind of a fee base versus a not to exceed and then talked about. It makes it easier when you're making your decision, if you say, okay, it was a 4 DBH, your fee is fine as this.
Exactly.
Rather than us having to debate it
Right.
and subjectively
There's a huge
look
difference
at it.
based on,
Okay,
the age and the size of a tree like that, like,
Yeah.
because you brought it up yourself. A brand new tree is not gonna be that 40-foot tree.
right.
So that's why I think it should be like you cut it on a 40-foot tree.
A
All right.
My question is that if they actually remove the tree and that would be difficult for us to go back and measure the tree, or like we are just measuring the trunk?
We measure the trunk,
Yeah. Like what
Yeah.
was left, you know, just like.
even if they grind it, there's still gonna be an area.
Okay. Then that works.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no jail time?
Gardening time, gardening time.
I do want to just talk real quickly about the zoning, the new zoning.
Can I just
We
add something about the tree code though?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Real quick, under purpose, there are 2 paragraphs. I think they're very redundant. And I'm willing to rewrite it if that's okay.
That's fine. No, I mean, that's the purpose of this
I
going,
didn't want
the
to
document
spend
going
the time,
around.
but it like talks about the safety and welfare of the inhabitants in one, and then it talks about the general welfare of the city of Kingston.
Okay,
It's very redundant.
no, I mean, this is the time. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
So I would rewrite
Yep.
that. And I also had one comment, I don't know if it's important, it may be a minor issue, but it talks about people on the tree commission, who's there and how many, and are there 5 or are there 7? And clearly, we only have 5 right now. And then you and Kyla, and there's supposed to be somebody who's a representative on the council, but they don't come. And that's in the tree code.
We do have a liaison
And I
appointed,
looked at his
and
name
I
and he
mean, I
never shows
can't,
up.
unfortunately, I can't.
Yeah, okay, so, but we are supposed to have somebody, they're
And we
just
do
not
have an
showing up.
appointed liaison, yes. It's Alderman Scott Childress.
Yes, I looked it up.
Yeah.
So as far as the tree commission, do we have to have, is it a minimum of 5, a maximum of 5, plus the 2?
Yeah, I mean, the code, you do need to have it laid out and
And it
identified.
says you have to live in the city of Kingston, but the Memorial Tree Fund is an exception because.
Because
from
of
Ulster
the
County.
Memorial Tree Fund, yes,
And I
you're
don't
the
know if that
representative
needs to
from
be
that.
stated in-
It's like Corinne
Yes.
is our professional representative, so she
Right.
fulfills that role.
But should it be stated that that person is exempt from the Kingston residency requirement? Which makes it sound like everybody on the commission has to live in
Okay.
Kingston. I don't know,
Look at the wording, yeah, okay, membership.
I mean, I can look at that wording too
Yeah,
and see if
okay.
like there's a way to change it without making it too complicated.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine, yeah, I mean,
I don't know, it may be a minor point, but if somebody ever says, oh, you don't live in the city of Kingston and the code says.
right, okay.
Those are the only 2 things.
I think when we remove that.
Yeah.
That's
So
so
it
rich.
was.
Did we remove that?
Yeah, no, we remove that.
So when are you gonna bring it up?
Okay, I'm
I'll look
looking to try and put a special meeting together just to talk about the new zoning code and just to talk about the areas of that document that pertain really to this commission. That would be of
Somebody that can
interest.
come and speak to us about it,
I can offer.
rather than us interpreting it.
Oh, yeah,
And not having that much of a, I would personally, I would feel comfortable enough with understanding it without having somebody that can explain.
Just to find, like, I was trying to look at it, to find like where it's catching on falls, and it's just to look at this, like the passage, it takes so much time, so.
If I would have to just summarize,
Well, we don't have a lot of time. I had tickle in my throat also, I'm sorry.
You need one of my thoughts.
I'm looking at probably the end of this month. It might, if I can't get a conference room, it might be in our office. I mean, that's how we're gonna have to play.
and that can't be a virtual meeting, because that's not a regular tree commission, maybe that could be a Zoom, if we can't. do it
That's an
on-
interesting thought. If it's a workshop, just discussion,
Mhm.
I don't know. That's
I
interesting.
mean, if there's not a room available, like instead
Yeah.
of being stuck in an office, maybe we could just do it virtually.
I'll ask, because we can do certain meetings Zoom still. Yeah. I'll see if
Because it
it's
might
an
give us
option. It
more
might make it easier
variety.
for people, more flexibility and time. Yeah. Okay, so let me know if there's any dates towards the end of the month that are absolutely out of question for you,
The 24th and 25th,
24th and the
which is
25th.
I believe a Tuesday night, and Wednesday night.
Do you have
I'm not in the state. I'm out of town.
do you have like a time that it's gonna be between 9 and 5? Because
I'm thinking about this time, but if we can do Zoom, I might be able to do something earlier.
5 would be good because
Yeah,
And
because
if you Zoom, I
for the
could.
people like you
go
can't
in
go
those
get
days.
here, so.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I just can't physically be.
Okay.
If it's a Zoom, you can do.
Before.
Okay.
That follows.
So that is all I have, is 5:50, this is.
I just want to go back real quick to the partnership thing for the tree grant with Natalie. Because the tree commission is a partner and their role is supposed to be to plan the outreach and education component, I just want to say that like as we get closer, maybe we can talk about ways to get that information out to the public. And it, have people come to these events that we're talking about, and that would be the tree commission's role in that grant application.
And there's also great school events. They have family nights, like, for example, at George Washington, the back parking lot, they have a lot of outdoor events, like a cultural night, et cetera. So aside from city events, maybe we can do outreach with the kids, because their parents are there.
Good.
Did you have to say anything else about that?
Maybe in a minute.
Okay. All right, so, yeah, sounds good.
Anything else from
Meeting-
anybody that we need?
We're not gonna discuss Lynn's letter.
She's coming next month.
Lynn has asked to be on the agenda next month. And so I've already discussed with her that there could be a time limit on her opportunity. She's fine with that. Sarah Wank has also requested to speak to us. I've also told her I need something in writing from her about the topic, and she will have a time limit as well.
And we haven't been giving it anything in relation to her yet. No letters or, okay,
No.
I just want to make sure I didn't miss something.
No. Okay. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I propose.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll let Evan get that
I'll go
one
first, I'll be second.
at 5:52. And Toby's a second on that. All in favor? Aye, okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.